things. And it was a devastating scene. It was a hard one to be in. So after talking to some of the witnesses, apparently the roof blew so high off of this house that it was actually above the palm trees. That's really high. That's like 50 feet in the air, how high this roof blew off in the initial explosion. Of course, it damaged multiple homes in the area. And come to find out, there were 3 people in the house, so there were 3 fatalities that day. And it was a really, really hard scene to cover. There was only one wall left standing in the house, and it was actually just half of it, and it was only the brick. Nothing else was left in the entire foundation. It was completely wiped out. So I took some video footage while I was there, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Let's pull up the link here. Of course, this was after everything had settled down a little bit, and they were just kind of searching for people or whatever, whoever was under the rubble. That's the house that I'm looking at right there that's gone. That's the roof. As you can tell, it was hazy. It was hard to see, hard to breathe. And it was like 102 degrees out that day. This right here is going to show you some of the insulation hanging from the trees. This was actually across the street. And those are police officers talking to some family, and this was the woman that passed away in this incident. That was her family as well. So, as you can tell, not everything on my trip was all fun and games. It was a learning curve. It really was, to learn how to handle people in a traumatic situation, how to relate to them, how to talk to them. At one point, my roommate did come after me being there for a couple hours to relieve me so we could switch off, and I could write a story to get online, and she could write the print story for the rest of the night. So that was a pretty intense experience for me. Now, on the other hand, there were other situations that were learning curves, but a little bit more on the funny side. This story was about a girl who, I don't know if any of you have seen this, but it's basically like My Super Sweet 16 on MTV, but in a quinceañera form. And it's a very interesting show. Needless to say, these girls had these big extravagant parties celebrating them turning 15. And we're talking like helicopters fly these girls into their party extravagant. So come to find out, MTV was going to be filming in Rockport for this girl's quinceañera. So originally, the story was more like a casting call because she was looking for 6 knights and 2 damas for her royal party. And so I write the entire story. It's toward the end of the day, and my editor comes to me and asks me a question, which I should have thought of. Did you talk to the girl? So I pulled the intern card and said, So I went ahead and called the girl, and I called her mom, and basically the quotes that I ended up getting from these people were like, totally, I'm going to make these guys take off their shirts, and if they're hot, I'm going to pick them. So that changed the direction of the story quite a bit. So at that point, when I showed my editor those quotes, she said, go back and rewrite it. This is now your lead. I believe the headline for the story ended up being, oh my God, as in OMG, MTV Trace is coming to Rockport, like totally. So yeah. So her mother is also quoted as saying that this was going to be an attraction at first sight type of thing. So it seemed to me that the mom and the daughter were somewhat on the same page. So it changed my story, and it ended up being a front page story. Well, the next day, which I was expecting, I started receiving the hate mail and angry phone calls. So apparently the party was off, everything was canceled, everything was ruined, and it was just horrible. And then MTV wouldn't let them out of their contract or something, and it was back on. So basically what ended up happening was they threatened to sue me. And so I said, was there anything false in my story? Because that's what you would sue me for. Well, no. Well, okay then. So talked to my editors, talked to the main editor, Shane, and all was well, and everybody congratulated me for receiving my first hate mail because apparently I was now officially changing the audition locations to keep myself and our photographer from going. And we drove around Rockport to find these people, and they hired like 7 police officers to keep me, okay, little woman, and another little woman photographer out. So it was a pretty, I kind of felt like the paparazzi. Like it was a pretty crazy deal. But anyway, that was the photo that she sent of herself for us to put in the newspaper. My photos. So if that tells you anything. So this was a pretty cool story that I ended up doing. Once I talked to one of the editors and he kind of asked me, what is your favorite kind of things to write? And I really enjoy writing features. I love the feel-good, fuzzy, warm feelings, oh, what a great story kind of story. So they kind of started putting me on some of that stuff, and I got to write this story about this all-girls rock band camp. And the girls were as young as 6 years old and as old as 18 that went to this rock band camp. It was just really cool. So I went and covered that and wrote this story. Well, it ended up actually being picked up by The Wire, and it was actually, I found it on the Denver Post website and on the Houston Chronicle. So that was really cool that a little intern story got picked up for The Wire. So that was a pretty fun experience. And then this one, myself and the other 2 interns did pretty much exclusive coverage on this. Apparently in Corpus Christi, high school baseball is big. Now, I'm from Amarillo, so ours is all football, but down there, it's all baseball. So we covered the Moody versus Cal Allen game, and there were over 9,000 fans at this high school baseball game. That's insane. It was madness. People were like pushing and screaming, trying to get in. They'd been there for like 6 hours trying to get through the gate. And myself and my little intern buddy Natalia actually traded off a bunch on this story and used each other's quotes and things like that. So we were in charge of fan color. So we had to go stand with all these crazy baseball fans and get quotes from them. So that was pretty interesting. And then this was actually the fastest story I wrote, other than little bitty scoops and briefs and things like that. But I actually got back from the baseball game, and my toughest editor, Jen, tells me, you got 15 minutes. And I'm like, really? 15 minutes? So now that I go back as the editor at my college newspaper, I'm like, you have a week, and that is a lot of time. So overall, my experience at the Caller was amazing. The editors were great. Everybody was supportive in the newsroom. The interns and myself just became the best of friends. My roommate's dog, we were pals too. I learned how to quickly pound out a story, and I learned how to overcome editor pressure, which there is a lot of, but it was a great experience. A little bit of trial by fire, and I came out better on the other side. I learned so much. I got to cover heartwarming stories and gut-wrenching stories and some funny stories. I got chased by monster cockroaches. For those of you who are from Corpus, you know what I'm talking about. They fly, by the way. Sick. They should not be able to fly. And of course, I got sunburned on the beach. So the memories that I made will last me a lifetime. My time in Corpus taught me so much, and it helped me grow, and it made me better at what I do. It was an amazing journey, and it was one that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.